All right, everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Game Changer Show. I'm your host, Mike McCabe, in the Jacksonville, Florida market. And each and every week, we do this show with people who are changing the game of real estate all over the country. And this is a live show, guys. So if you have any questions for our guests, please put them in the comments, and I will ask them for our guests to answer. For anyone in the Jacksonville area, we are currently looking to hire some acquisitions reps. So anyone looking to get into that role with sales experience, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. This week on the show, we have Ben Toaff, who wholesales nationwide. Ben, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me out here, Mike. Thanks for the invite, and looking forward to sharing with the crowd.
Cool. So for the people who don't know you, do you want to share a little bit about how you got into real estate and how that's kind of led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Philadelphia, Lower Marion, and then I went to University of Maryland. Studied engineering. Actually, didn't really intend on being an engineer, but that's what I studied nevertheless. And um, I moved to Miami. I was kind of a big dreamer. Wanted to go to a fun city. I always dreamed of moving to Florida. So I moved to Miami when I graduated, and I don't speak Spanish very well, although my Spanish is decent now. But back in the time, I didn't speak any Spanish, so I had a difficult time securing a good sales position when I graduated. And I ended up getting a job going door to door at businesses trying to sell photocopiers because I wanted to get into sales. And I sold my first photocopier after about 90 days. I got the commission check for $200 and I quit the next day. I wasn't interested in making, working that hard to make $200. So I, then I started to look into real estate because my brother was a mortgage loan officer and he said I should become a real estate agent. And so I got my license and I kind of realized that there was a lot of heavy competition in South Florida for that, and I was just a little bit intimidated. How am I going to compete with all these people with these big networks and things like that, a lot older than me, and I just felt like it was going to be an uphill battle. And then I saw some videos online talking about wholesaling, flipping houses, and there was a couple videos in particular where there was two guys who were talking about how they were making $50,000-$60,000 a month and they had just started. And to be totally frank, they sounded like complete retards. And I was just looking at this like, wow, like these guys, if this is real and these guys can make that much money doing it, like there's absolutely no chance that I can't, figure out how this is done. So I went to a RIA meeting, I'm sure you've heard of RIAs. I went to the Dade Real Estate Investors meeting, and they were talking about it, showing the deals on the board and the HUDs and stuff like that. And I ended up joining their mentorship program back in 2016. And yeah, that's how I got started.
Okay. And did you jump right into wholesaling, like when you got in the business, or did you experiment around with
Yeah,
different paths?
specifically their mentorship was on how to wholesale properties that were listed on the MLS. That's what they were teaching.
Hmm.
And it took me about 3 months to get my first deal. I canceled 3 contracts prior to getting the fourth one that actually sold. Um, and I was just putting in reps. I was just putting out offers and making a lot of
Hmm.
calls, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was like imperfect action that led to that first deal, which
Hmm.
kind of put it in motion. The fact that, because for me, once I got the first deal, I realized, okay, this is possible. Before that, I was kind of, even though I see everyone else doing it, I was a little bit skeptical.
Gotcha. Okay. So you kind of get your first deal, and then where do you go from there?
So yeah, I got my first deal and I ended up, it was a house in Fort Lauderdale. I actually shagged my girlfriend in the backyard when I was getting the pictures and then ended up selling the next morning. And that was, I'll never forget that house. And then my mentor told me to go back and get a price reduction. I ended up getting, back and forth, ended up getting $1,500. So I made $8,500, and I was like, I had to split it with my mentor, but still, the spread was 8,500, and I was like, wow, this really works. And then a couple weeks later, another house in Miami ended up making 10,000 on that one. And so at this point, I was like, I'm a confident guy. So at this point, I was like, okay, this is easy. Like I'm gonna make millions and millions. Like I was already like in my head, it was easy. And then I moved. I don't know if you're not from Miami, but there's this building called the Flamingo. It's in South Beach. It's this big building, and it used to be the biggest party building in Miami. And that was like, everyone in that building was having a good time. I was 24 at the time, so I moved to that building, and I ended up just getting really distracted and didn't do any deals for 6 months. And
Mm.
then I got into this big argument with my roommate, and he was saying, "Oh, you're a frat star. All you do is party and blah 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 blah, and you're not serious about your work." And so I needed a new roommate, but he was kind of right. I wasn't very serious about my work at the time, and so he kind of motivated me, and I ended up convincing my best friend to move from Israel. He quit his job to move from Israel back to Miami. Well, he was from Philadelphia, so he moved from Israel to Miami to become my business partner. And I knew that once I had someone working with me, that I would be a lot more motivated to kind of be accountable
Mm.
every day. Because I had him counting on me, and I was counting on him, so I had to pull my weight. And so once it brought him down, the second day that he was working with me, we ended up, getting a lead, an off-market pocket listing from a realtor where the spread was 40,000. That was on the second day, and so that was a third deal we did. It was like almost 40,000 in spread. But yeah, that's kind of how it got started. We ended up doing 400,000 in our first year, and that was just strictly calling realtors. Literally every morning we would just call all the realtors, send tons of offers to realtors, follow up on the offers, and drive out to houses that were listed because we wanted to seem like we were really interested in the houses. So we would drive out to them, meet the realtors of the house, look at the houses, those kind of things. And
Mhm.
we ended up doing 400,000 that year, with no overhead because we had no marketing expense, we had no employees, none of that. I mean, it was just straight, pretty much profit for the most part. And yeah, that's how it got started. And then I ended up buying him out of the business because he didn't really like it as much as I did. As soon as I started to get those checks rolling in, like consistently 10, 20, $30,000, checks,
Mm.
I was addicted. I was addicted. I was just hustling 24/7, running around, getting houses. And that was my life. And then I bought him out of the business. I gave him 52 grand to walk away from our business, which was very generous of me, but I mean, it was my best friend, so I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to ruin the friendship. So
Sure.
I gave him 52 grand, and then the next month after he left, I felt, I was really motivated because I just given him 52 grand. So I ended up doing 90,000 that month in January of 2017. No, sorry, January of 20. This would be 2018 at this point, I believe. And
Mhm.
then I realized, okay, I have this down, and that's when I opened up my first office, and I started to hire some people to work for me.
Yeah. So talk about that transition to like doing the transaction yourself to then like hiring people who were then, I assume you're hiring acquisitions people to go out there and like find deals for you.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, most people when they first start hiring people, they're always nervous to invest in their team. They want to they're trying to do it as cheapest way possible. So they're trying to hire people commission only and things like that. And so that's what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get anyone in the door, commission only, or maybe on a small draw, just to get someone in there. And I wasn't very selective about who I hired because
Mm.
I didn't fully understand like what I was looking for. I was just trying to get someone warm bodies in the door, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And you know went through a couple people, but I I made it work. And then, but what I was doing at the time, I was giving them a really high commission split, um, and because I wasn't willing to pay, a salary. So I was given a really high commission split, which is not what I do now, and then we're doing that MLS model for a couple of years. And that the second year we did 750,000 off the MLS. It was like me and like two other people. I was hustling, man. I was hustling. I was waking up 5 in the morning, going to the gym 5 in the morning, and then heading to the office 8 in the morning, working sometimes from 8 in the morning till 9 at night, nonstop on the phone. I had, 4 shots of espresso. I was vaping my ass off. I was on literally on 3 phone calls, on the phone with a realtor, on the phone with a buyer selling the house. Then I was speeding up 95 to Broward County, going 120 miles an hour in my car in the express lane to look at a house. I would pull out the I had a retractable ladder in my car. So I would pull out the ladder. I would go on top of the roof of the house to make sure there was no leaks. And then I would sometimes I would send a no contingency offer for the house, because I was super confident that if I got it at that price, I could sell it. And I want, so I would go on the roof, because I got bit in the ass one time when I had a house that ended up having a roof leak because I didn't know about it. So I was
Mm.
always check the roof. And then, yeah, I mean, that was great. And then eventually, I saw there was a guy named Rafael Vargas, and I started to see his Instagram ads and stuff like that. And he was talking about millions of dollars in wholesaling and whatever. And so I went to his event, and that's when I started to get into the off market stuff. And that was a
Mm.
couple years later. And that's how it transitioned. And then we started to hire cold callers, and we at first we were like, it was still cheap, so I used to try to get all my acquisition agents to cold call. So I would hire like 12 acquisition agents, and we'd have them all on Zen call, just pounding the phone, just dialing, like trying to generate leads
Huh.
and close them. And then which was crazy. And then eventually we started I had some some Filipino VAs, and then the VAs was going good. So then we at one point we had 20 VAs, and we had 5 acquisition agents, or 5 or 6 at the time. And we would just send out tons of text messages, voicemails, that kind of thing, and cold calling. And we would uh just live transfer all the leads. Like any lead that had like a seller that was willing to hear our offer, we would live transfer it. And the speaker would ring in the office when they live to transfer it, and I would, who's picking up the fucking phone? It was crazy. It was crazy. And then so with that strategy, we were able to do like about 1.5 million. But what I realized was, this is not, what I realized after time is like, wait, only like I have like 6 agents, but only like 2 of them are actually like consistently closing deals. So I'm like,
Mm.
why don't I just fire all the other ones and then just give all the leads to them? So that's what I did. And so then
Mm.
I fired like pretty much all my agents except for 2 of them. And at one point we had 2 acquisition agents, and it was me, 2 acquisition agents, and a transaction coordinator. And I was doing dispo as well. So I would underwrite all the deals, and then I would do dispo. And all these deals were like in South Florida, Tampa, Jacksonville. They were all pretty much Florida deals.
Yeah.
And we were doing great. We were doing great with that model. Like we were doing good. But then that's when I started to get into, everyone's talking about PPC Google ads. And then, so we started to run Google ads. And I remember we ran it with like one agency, AdWords Nerds, and they were like complete trash. The agency's terrible. And then, so we got no lead deals from that. And then we started running with this other agency, and like our second or third call, we were mainly getting calls from the PPC at the time. Our second
Mm.
or third call, we locked up like a $20,000 deal, and like the third, and like it was a 1 call close. It was like so easy, like compared to like cold calling. So I'm like, you know, this was exciting because it was like so much less work than like the cold calling. And
Mm.
and then yeah, that's how we got started. And then we just started to ramp up the budget on our PPC. We do $1,000 a day, and then we do $2,000 a day. And then I got with
And you're nationwide at this point, or
no,
you're
at this
still in
point we were not
Florida?
nationwide. We were doing like We were doing like basically like Florida and then North Carolina and Texas. Like we're just doing a couple little markets. Like it wasn't that
Mm,
many markets. And then I heard, I'm sure you know Robert Wensley is.
mhm,
I heard about Robert, and I got in a call with him, and he was telling me about, Investor Lift Cartel or whatever. I'm not sure if you know about that, but we're part of the cartel.
yeah,
That's basically
yeah.
like we have like 4.5 million buyers on there. But I was one of the first like 50 people on there. And
Hmm,
that completely changed my business because we had buyers in every single market pretty much, or most major
mm,
markets. So what happened then is we just opened up our PPC, but Robert was like, yeah, if you want to do more deals, you just have to scale your marketing. So I mean, I literally took it like way too far. I was spending like 10,000 a day on Google ads at one point. Like it
Jeez.
was crazy. Like 10,000 a day. Like we were spending like, so this was like 200,000 a month. I was just burning cash. It was crazy. But what would happen was is we would get deals in like California and Washington State, and we would lock up contracts in one call, and we would sell them the same day for like an $80,000 assignment fee. It was wild. It was great. And we'd have like
Mm,
multiple offers. So we would just lock them up on a contract, and then we'd get some photos, and then we would blast down Investor Lift. And it was like, I was just so addicted. Like, I wasn't even like a smart business operator. I was just spending way too much on marketing, but I was just so excited just get these assignment fees, and just, it was great. And then,
mm,
um, yeah, and then that's how I was running my business pretty much all, up until about halfway through last year when the market tanked. Cuz so
jeez.
sorry, yeah, 2021, that was all we did.
Yeah.
We did 3.7 million in assignment fees in 2021. And then
Yeah.
2022, the market tanked. Or sorry, when did the market tank again? I'm getting so
Yeah.
confused. This was
2022.
2021.
Oh,
2021,
wait.
the end of 2021. Yeah, the end of 2021 is when it
Yeah.
kind of started to like go to shit. So, our deals weren't selling anymore. And then, a lot of my
Mm,
buddies were telling me, okay, well, we got to do novations. And so that's what we did. And then we started to move to novations, and it took us like about 3 months to figure out like
mm.
really how to like work the novations. And once we had that
Nationwide
figured
still?
out,
Or
well, now that we were doing novations, we went even wider, because at first we were only doing like core markets. We were doing like California, Texas, Arizona, but only like the best parts. And then once we had novations locked in, because the wider you go on PPC, the lower your lead cost. We've
mhm,
done deals in fucking Inwood, West Virginia. We made 20,000. I've done deals in the middle of nowhere. We made 50, 60,000. Like we just did one
yeah.
in Welch, Minnesota, where we made like 59,000.
Mm,
So basically, once we had those novations locked in, we just went super wide on the marketing to try to drive down our lead costs and increase our profitability. And yeah, that's what we did. And so that's pretty much what we do now. We do a little bit of cold calling, very minimal, probably 5% or less of our deals come from cold calling, but 95% of our stuff is coming from Google Ads. And we've done deals. I think today we have a closing in Michigan, so it'll be our 30th state that we've done deals in.
and how are you, like, managing all, like, the different you just working with a national title company, or how are you handling, like, the transactional
So
load that comes with that?
that's something that like wholesalers don't talk about. The most
Yeah.
important position in your company, if you're going to scale, is transaction coordination. And most wholesalers don't have a
Mm,
transaction coordinator. I have two. I have two transaction coordinators. They're full time in office. One of them is a licensed Florida title agent, and the other one is, has like 20 years experience closing deals at title companies.
mm,
So I've got, great transaction coordinators. So my transaction coordinators, the files are coming in, they're introducing themselves to the seller. They are getting the seller's disclosure filled out right away over the phone with the seller. If we have a novation attorney, in fact, they're getting it notarized. And then they're setting up the showings with the seller. They're setting expectations with the seller. They're doing everything. We get in touch with our
mm,
sellers every 2 or 3 days, As soon as a seller, if they seem like they might back out or something like that, we're filing a notice of interest on the house. So to make sure that, we don't lose the deal. And yeah, if the seller backs out and it's a juicy deal, we start a lawsuit. I mean, we start a lot of lawsuits. I mean, probably not as much as we used to, but probably we start 2 to 4 lawsuits a month, I would say.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many deals are you guys doing a month under this novation model?
So last year was the first year in my company history where we did less than the year before. We did
Yeah.
a lot of deals, but the problem was our average deal size did go down because of the market. So we did 3.1 million. As far as like the exact revenue, I actually have our sheet right here. Let me see. Closed deals. Closed deals. Here we go. How many did we get? So last year we did right around about 175, 180 transactions closed on wholesaling, and
Hmm.
I bought like and sold probably another 30, 40 houses, like because we also
Yeah.
do a lot of wholetailing. I do fix and flip as well. I buy a lot of rentals to try to offset my taxable income. So
Yeah.
yeah, we did about 175 deals last year. That's just like wholesaling innovations.
Yeah. And are you almost exclusively innovations at this point, or were you still at? Because some people have kind of made the full switch, right? Or are you guys
Yeah,
still
we're
kind of
like
dabbling a little?
80. We're like 80%. We're like 80%. So we'll pitch the seller, and if they're really motivated and they want like a quick close, then we just like beat them up on the price and we get it like super low.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're like 80%. I would say 80% of the time we're
80%
trying to sell it on the
innovation.
MLS.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yeah, I
Got
mean,
it.
you can't survive otherwise. There's no one out here in the market that is doing well now without innovations. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. So, like, I guess what's your pitch to the seller? People have like different ones, right? But like how do you position it to them so that like it kind of works for them and they like the idea?
Um, you know, we're investors. We buy houses, but not every house fits our buy box. We have a large network of investors and other buyers that we work with and agents that we can utilize to get your property sold. You're not going to have to commit to a 6-month listing agreement like you would have to with a realtor, and we're going to cover any closing costs and repairs necessary to get the property sold. So you're still going to be able to get the property sold relatively quickly, and you're not going to have to deal with all the legwork. We're gonna walk you through the process and make the process a lot simpler for you. So I mean, I know it's kind of brief, but that's the main thing. I think that more important than the pitch is the
Mm,
rapport that you bring with the seller. So if you really take the time to, nurture the relationship with the seller over the phone, they don't really give a shit who buys the house. They're more just looking for a solution. So as long as you can
yeah.
build that rapport with the seller and you can, present them a solution to getting rid of their house, they don't really care who buys it.
Yeah. And then how do you guys handle like showings? I know some people like make it try to do it in specific windows for the innovations. Others just say we're gonna, throw a lockbox on
Well, if the
there
house
and
is vacant, we'll get a lockbox usually. If it's owner occupied, obviously we work around the owner's schedule. Sometimes the owners are really cool about showing it. Sometimes they're difficult. It just depends on the deal. If it's vacant, we're going to lockbox. If it depends on the deal. Sometimes we get deals where we don't have a lot of buyers, so then we have to renegotiate with the seller. Or sometimes we get deals where we have like tons of buyers and we have to like squeeze them all. We try to get them all in as fast as possible. It just
mm,
every deal is a little bit different. It just depends on whether it's owner occupied or vacant. There's no like exact science to it.
sure. And you said like it kind of took you basically 3 months to make that transition from just kind of straight wholesale to this. Like for the people who are maybe thinking about making this transition, or maybe they are, like what are some of the pitfalls you ran into along the way, and like how did you overcome them?
So the number one pitfall is the sellers back out a lot when they see the price so much higher than you got it for, because even though you tell them we're selling to someone else, they don't necessarily understand that you're going to mark it up 30, 40, 50 grand, right? So they kind of get a little
Mm.
sketched out about that. That is a big one. I think that it's important to be very transparent with the seller up front, explain to them that we're going to list it for more. We may or may not get that price, and we're going to cover all the fees. That way they're not thinking like, okay, you're just making 40,000 net, right? And
Yeah.
then that's important. So you got to really be, you don't want to like spook the seller when they see the price that much higher. Like you need to make sure that the seller really, they understand that you're going to list it for more. Because if they don't understand that, then they're going to get a flaky seller most of the time.
Mm.
Another thing is that you what are the other hurdles? I mean, I think that you have to find the right title companies, because if the title company doesn't know what innovation is, they'll blow up your deal. I mean, it's happened to us, and it's still a
Mm.
work in progress to make sure you have the right title company, especially when you're going into, you know, 30, 40 states. You got to really find the title companies. Like, you got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, they're going to blow up your deal. Like, they're going to say the wrong thing to the seller. We just lost a deal in New Jersey where, because we had a $70,000 spread locked in, and the attorney sent the purchase agreement, the AB, to the seller. Sorry, the BC to the seller with the buyer's price, and seller backed out right there. So
Mm.
that's important. Your title company knows how to kind of maneuver the deal. That's super important.
Are you doing the true novation where you're doing the replacement of contract, or are you just kind of doing a double close? Because you said A, B, B, C. That's what kind
No,
of
no,
brought
no.
it to mind.
We're not doing double close. No,
Okay.
we're no. Well, we have an AB contract and we have the BC, because the BC replaces the AB.
Got it. Okay. But then
Yeah.
isn't the seller signing the second contract then, or no? Or are you just
No,
using
we
an attorney
signed
in
the
fact
second
at that point?
contract because we have the attorney in fact. The seller signs the closing documents.
Closing. Got it. Okay. I know different people go
Yeah.
about that different ways. So cool.
No, we signed the purchase agreement, and then the seller signs the closing docs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then
Yeah.
what were some other like hurdles
Is
that
anyone
you
on
think
here,
might?
by the way? I'm just kind of curious.
Uh, we have one person watching live right now.
Okay, cool. I wonder how many I have on mine. I can't see it right now. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So what are some other hurdles that you may people might run into when making that transition?
I think the number one thing is the transaction coordination, and just making sure that you're getting in touch with the seller, you're being transparent with the seller, you're getting in touch with the buyer. Like, you have to communicate with a lot of parties. On a wholesale transaction, it's a little bit easier because your time frame is shorter. You don't have to, you just, a lot of times the house is vacant. You're just selling it real quick to an investor. The investor's kind of like, they get it. They don't have inspections. With novations, where you're dealing with financing and banks, your transaction coordination has to be super tight. And I think that a lot of smaller time wholesalers that, they work on either solopreneur, or they have like a smaller team, that's the part that they're struggling. They're scared to like make that investment into hiring like a real transaction coordinator, and they
Mm.
just try to do everything on their own. And when you're dealing with innovation, there's a lot of moving parts. You have to get the AB contract, then you have to get the BC contract, then you have to make sure that usually you file an NOI, and then you have to get the AIF notarized usually, and
Mm.
then you've got to get the property listed, and then you also have to get the seller's disclosure, and then you've got to get the novation indemnification signed. So there's a lot more paperwork than
Mm.
a traditional transaction. So not having a legitimate transaction coordinator is going to make it a lot more difficult to kind of complete these closings. If I was a newbie wholesaler entering the market today, I probably wouldn't want to go in. Like, I would be intimidated. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder than like wholesaling was like 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, there was about one third the amount of competition there is now, and you could pick either. It was very easy to pick up deals.
Sure. Yeah. And are you like trying to get a lot, like, are your acquisitions guys trying to get a lot of that paperwork on the front end? or are you kind of just having to get the purchase agreement and have the TC immediately take over to get
The
those
acquisitions
disclosures done?
just gets the contract and the AIF, and they just get it on DocuSign, and then our transactions takes from there. Our transaction coordinators are phenomenal. We have the best transaction coordinators in the country. I'm certain of it, 100%. I mean, no
Yeah.
one's willing to pay as much as me, so we
There you
100%
go.
have the highest. Like we, because I know that like that makes my life easier. Like when not having good
Yeah.
transaction coordination makes my business like doesn't work. Like I was just in Argentina for 2.5 weeks. My team was functioning pretty much at like 98% without me.
Yeah.
Totally fine. I
What
had I
does your
got I had
team
a
look
I
like?
had 150 grand in closings this year wired into my account before I ever stepped a foot into the office.
That's great.
Yeah. So I mean that doesn't happen without good transaction coordination. Yeah, what were you saying?
So outside of the two transaction coordinators, what does the rest of your team currently look like?
So we have 5 acquisition agents off market. Then we have one that calls realtors. So 6 acquisition agents. And then we have one follow up specialist. She's a VA from Nicaragua. She follows up with our leads, warms them up, and live transfer them to our acquisitions. And then we have 2 cold callers in house. We have 3 in-house. I mean, like they live in the Philippines, but they like work for me directly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we have 3 full-time disposition agents and 2 transaction coordinators. Um, I just hired a bookkeeper. She starts on Monday, full-time bookkeeper. And I
Mhm.
also am in the process of hiring full-time tech support. Although that's been a fucking mission to find a good one. I've been looking for a while, to be honest. Um,
Tech
but yeah,
tech support
that's
meaning
that's
like computers
yeah,
stuff around your
someone
office?
to handle like our CRM, our integrations, making sure that all of our KPIs are getting tracked, track our marketing, how much are we spending on ads, how much are we generating revenue from each of our campaigns. Is our cold calling set up correctly? Do we have basically monitoring our marketing and all the back end, and then implementing any changes we need on the front end, like with our CRM and things like that, and just tracking our KPIs and our sales team and our cold callers. Super important
Gotcha.
role. Super important role.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of thing that like I used to do, but I don't have time for it or the patience, to be
Yeah.
honest.
What's your kind of seat in the company right now? Besides me, I mean, you're the owner, but what do you do
Um,
day to day?
I'm like a mascot. I'm just basically like I like the company functions without me. I mean, like it does. Like I don't really do that much anymore. I mean, I come in the office, I check in with my transaction coordinators. I scream at my dispo agents, "Hey, you guys got to sell more dogs." Like, I mean, not really scream, but like I just tell them, "Hey, we got to move some houses." I'll check in with my acquisitions team. My team is like unbelievable. Like I have
Mm,
I have the best acquisitions team in the country. Like I have my acquisition agents. I have 3 acquisition agents that have been with me 3 years, so that they know exactly
mm,
what to do. You know, I have you know 3 acquisition agents. 2 of them have you know over 2.5 million in sales for my company, in their career, and the other one has probably over 1.8, 1.9 million. So I've got in my office, like my acquisition team, they've got like $8 million in career sales. They know exactly what to do.
yeah.
Better than I do with acquisitions. I don't have patience for that. So I just know what I'm good at. What I'm really good at right now is I know how to find the right people and put them in the right seats. And that's the difference.
Mm,
I'm an operator. Like I operate my business. My main function is just looking for my next hire and screening them and then putting them in the right place. I don't know. A lot of people, when they get into this business, they're like, oh, how they think about it. How can I do this? I don't think about it like that anymore. It's about who can I get to do this for me. That's the whole
mm,
thing. That's the transition, how you transition from a like a solopreneur to like a real owner operator. I'm just looking at the business from the top, making sure every department's functioning, and then getting the next hire in the next seat so I can grow my company.
What do you feel that like you do differently that's allowed you to hire like that level of talent versus other people in the industry who might have a lot of turnover or, struggling to build a sales team?
Well, I'm not scared to offer a salary. I just hired another acquisition agent. He started like 3 weeks ago. He was a top performer at another wholesale company, a company called Property Force. They're the largest wholesaler
Yeah.
in the
Okay.
country. So, well, they were not anymore, but they, so I just hired one of their top performers. I was willing to give him a significant salary. He's got 48,000 salary. You don't really see many wholesalers willing to offer, 40, $50,000 salaries to an acquisition agent. They're trying to get people
Mm,
for pennies on the dollar. I would rather pay more and get someone good that's going to close. He locked up a house in Colorado on his second or third day where we're going to make, I think, like 100 grand on his third day. So,
yeah.
like, that, it's for me, it's worth it. Like, because if I'm going to pay for Lamborghini leads, if I'm going to buy the most expensive leads, I need Lamborghini closers. So
Mm,
it's a different game. Like, I'm willing to pay. And also, like, when people come in to my team, they're like, okay, wow, this guy's legit. Like, they run Google ads. He's got 2 transaction coordinators, got 3 dispo. If you go to more other wholesalers, like, they don't have that setup. So that it's not like, if you're a top closer, you don't you it doesn't it's not legit. You're not like, okay,
mm,
if I go here, is this really an opportunity or not? And it's
mm,
also like, I have my closers that have been with me for years and they've made great money working for me. So when they come in, it's like, okay, this guy's been here. He's got this other closer, has been here 3 years. This guy makes, high 6 figures every year. It's like, I'm showing them, it's not like, oh, you can potentially make 6 figures. It's like, no, you will make, you know, high 6 figures if you're a good closer of this company. It's not like it's not like, I'm not like a startup wholesaler where they're coming in like, oh, does this guy really know what he's doing? It's a very
sure.
different it's a very different setup, if that makes sense. But
Yep.
when I first started and I didn't have that kind of infrastructure, people saw how committed I was. I was grinding and I was showing up to the office early, and anyone that came in to interview me, I'm like, yeah, I want to be the biggest wholesaler in the country. And I would say that straight out, and they feel that. They feel like, okay, this he's not fucking around. Like, he's serious. They feel that passion. They feel like this guy's got the vision. All I got to do, if I want to be successful in my career, I just got to get on board with him and just, put my best foot forward, and he's gonna lead the way. He's gonna give me the
Mm,
opportunities, the pieces that I need to succeed. You know,
yeah.
so that's kind of it. Most wholesalers are just trying to do it on the cheap. They're trying to get people for as little as possible or commission only.
Mm,
They're scared to offer a draw. They're scared to buy expensive leads. They're scared to invest in their business. I'm not scared to invest. I'm not in this for the short run. I don't care about what happens in the next 60 days.
yeah.
I care about what's going to take my company from 3 million to 10 million. That I care about. I'm here to break, what's that saying? Like, take names or something like that. What's something like that? Something and take names.
Oh,
Like, I'm here.
I know
Uh,
what you're getting at,
yeah,
but
talking about, yeah. Basically, like, they can see that I'm serious about what I'm doing at this company and that I'm not just, uh, a fly by night.
yeah. Are you recruiting most of your talent away, like actively going out and recruiting them from other places? Is that where you're finding the best people, or
Yes, yeah,
okay?
100%. Um, but I've also, like, I know how to set up my ads on Indeed so that they attract those talent. Like, it's all about how you position it. So, because on Indeed, the way you set up your ads,
Mm,
I put my salary, I put my commissions, and I put my description, and then you can actually look at the resumes on Indeed, and you can send them a job invite. So you can, like, go and you can search a company name, and then you can send, like, send your job link to all, like, everyone that's on Indeed. And you can do the same thing on on LinkedIn. So I've gotten people from LinkedIn, I've gotten people from Indeed, and I'm going after like the specific people that I need. But also like it took time to figure out like what I'm looking for. Like when we look for
Mm,
acquisitions, it's very different than dispositions. When we look for transaction coordinator, it's very different than dispositions. Every position you have to know what exactly you're looking for.
so you're doing a lot of like outreach. So like you're browsing the resumes on Indeed by the companies. You're looking at LinkedIn. You're reaching out to those people and saying, "Hey, I'm hiring. Are you open to
But
something
I mean,
different?"
a
Or
lot of them apply to my jobs, but it's I've done both. I've done both. Like I've gotten
doing
like
both.
I've done both. Yes. But when I was first getting started, like in trying to get like my first couple guys in the door, yes, I was doing a lot of that. Now I'm more in the position where I'm positioning my ads where my
Mm,
job offer is more enticing than the other people out there hiring, so that you know I'm getting the best applicants available. And then once I have that
yeah.
applicant, because people don't apply to one job, they apply to 20 jobs, right? So once I have that
Hmm.
applicant, you know, I know what I'm looking for, and if it's what I'm looking for, I'm willing to beat what they're offering. I mean, I'm willing to offer more than other people. My transaction coordinator, I pay her 130 fucking grand salary. Like no one does that.
Yeah. No one pays that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but when she replied to my job, like I wasn't offering that, but she kept, I was gonna lose her, and I knew this transaction coordinator, she's gonna make me millions. Like I knew it was certain. Like
Yeah.
I was like, if I let this girl go, it might be another year before I have an opportunity to hire someone this good. So,
Mm,
I just did it, and it's worth it. It's fucking worth it. And when you pay people well, they're not going anywhere. I mean, it's possible, of course, but it's not likely.
yeah. Yeah. What you say, like you kind of craft your job description in a specific way to attract like the right candidates. You maybe want to give an example or some tips that you do like on for an acquisitions rep, for example.
Yeah. So here, I'm gonna pull up my acquisitions thing right here. Here we go. Yeah. So my acquisitions here. Here. Do you have can I share my screen on here? Or is that not an option?
Well, a lot of people listen on audio, so it's probably better if you just talk through it.
Okay, okay. I mean, it says like inside sales, wholesale real estate acquisitions, base 50K plus commission, 60 to 200K total compensation. That's my job title. So I
That's
mentioned
your
the fact that
title.
it's yeah,
Okay.
that's my
Wow.
title. Correct. So I mentioned the
Mm,
base in the title because I want them to notice that I'm willing to pay a base. And then in the description, I basically say that the base is between 24 and 50, just depending on how qualified you are for the position. But I mean, I put the 50K, which is the high end, in the description. That way, I at least get their attention and they'll apply. If that makes sense,
mm,
because a lot of
yep.
people won't even apply. Like they won't even read the description; they'll just apply. But
Just
once I
apply.
have
Yeah.
their resume, I can now at least I have the opportunity to speak to them if it's a really good candidate. But if they don't
Yep.
apply, I don't necessarily get the resume.
Right. Yeah. Huh.
So yeah, that's how I position it. I mean, there's more. It's more obviously. There's more steps to it now. I have to get on the phone with them, explain them, why it's a good company, etc., and then go from there. But at least I get the initial lead.
Yeah. Is there anything else you do to attract them besides like the title? I mean, obviously it's like well written, the job description, I'm sure, but any tips you can share with people?
Um, I mean, the description. I mentioned on the thing in the description that my company has done millions of dollars in sales because I don't want them to think that I'm brand new. And I mentioned how it's in office because I don't want them to think that it's a remote position because a lot of people are looking for that and it's fucking annoying. I'm not looking for remote.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, my job offering is just so much stronger than pretty much everyone else out there for the most part. There's not a lot of people in wholesale real estate that offer that much base, especially in South Florida. South Florida is a shitty job market. Like people don't like there's not a lot of
Huh.
good jobs out there. Like in South Florida, people it's not like New York City. Like in New York City, my job offer would suck because there's companies out there
Sure.
that pay a lot of money. But like in Miami, it's a great job offer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the number one thing is I'm positioning my title and my salary to be competitive with other top companies in the area.
And are you finding that like there's people actually like looking for a sales job in wholesaling? Like they come because of that title, or are they just kind of like
Yes,
inexperienced and
yes.
really? Okay.
Well, you get a lot of like real estate agents, but you also get a lot of you get a lot. I guess sometimes I get wholesalers that are like newbie level wholesalers. I hate those people usually. Like I'm not looking
Mm,
for like I'm not looking for like newbie wholesalers who like went to seminar and then like tried to do wholesaling on their own and failed. I'm not interested. That's not what I want. What I want is I'm looking for someone who worked for preferably a wholesaler, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a wholesaler. Preferably a wholesaler, but they have a track record of staying at the same company for a couple of years and having success. Other thing I like to hire for acquisitions is I love women. Women for acquisitions is a cheat code because everyone has a bunch of dicks in their office and no one wants to talk to a dick. Everyone wants to talk to a woman. So if you get women on the phone, because who sells houses, right? Like, are most of your sellers men or women?
most of the sellers or women that
Yeah, the
make the
decision
final
makers
decision?
the
The
decision
decision,
makers when
yeah,
this
yeah.
who is mostly men, right?
Oh, I don't know. It seems like the wife always has the final call, in my experience.
No, usually the guy is usually the guy. It's usually, the wife, they always blame it on the wife, but the guy is usually the one making the decision.
Yeah,
Like it's the
fair enough.
financial
Yeah.
decision. So when a guy calls in and then you have a girl calling to, pitch the sale or whatever, or to close the deal, their guard is down. They just trust women way more than men. They can't help it, especially if they
Yeah.
sound sexy on the phone. Is done. So that women have an unfair advantage in that closing. Like for dispositions, I prefer male because they have to be tighter, more strict on the price and that kind of thing. But acquisitions is all about rapport building. So with when the women tend to do, they tend to have. We have men that do great, but women tend to have an easier time. Like our rookie of the year, Cara, she had no experience. She did phenomenal. She did like 700K in sales, first 9 months. Never did this before. She
Mm,
sounds great on the phone. Women
yeah.
also, they have more, like they're just more, women tend to be more socially intuitive than men because
Mm,
women are constantly, they're being hit, like they're being always being hit on by men, right? They're all constantly being hit on by men. That's just how it is in the world. So they're constantly they're just more socially in tune than men. Men, if you're a random guy and you don't talk to anyone, no one's going to make an effort to talk to you. But if you're a woman, you're just constantly getting, bombarded by men, whether on social media or in person. So they're just naturally more socially in tuned. They
mm,
have to be. So when it comes to sales on the phone, it comes more naturally to women than men.
yeah. And then you get these candidates coming in, right? You like some of their resumes. Like, you want to walk us kind of through for an acquisitions position, like what your hiring process is, so you actually am like, yeah, this is the person. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with.
so I screen them on the phone, and if I'm interested in hiring them, then I usually will invite them into the office, and then we'll have a meeting. I'll ask them about their experience, kind of get a feel for their personality. I always have them do a disc assessment, a disc personality test.
Mm,
And what I'm looking for on the disc test, I'm looking for the red a little bit, which is like the closer, but also I'm really looking for the green, the greeny, and the yellow. Okay. I don't know if you've ever seen a disc assessment, but you have red, yellow, green, blue, right? So red is like the pushy, aggressive style. Yellow is kind of like the flamboyant influencer, the influence, right? And then the
Mhm.
green is the connecting emotional part. And then the blue is the analytical. So the blue is the least important, in my opinion, for acquisitions. Analytical is not necessarily important for sales, like on the phone. The green is very good if they have a little bit of green. You want some green because they can connect with people, make them feel comfortable on the phone, make them feel, that they really give a shit. I'm not good. I don't have any green, but that's really good for acquisitions. And then the red is the closer. Like they have to know, like, okay, when to close. You don't want too much red, but they have to have at least some. And then the
Mm.
yellow is key too, because the yellow is the bullshitting. Like that is like, how do you convince the seller to sell you their most expensive asset, their house, directly over the phone for half of what it's fucking worth? That's the yellow. You got to be able to like just like bullshit people and like convince them, influence them to make a decision.
Yeah. So you have them do a disc, and like when you're
And
having that
then,
conversation with them,
mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, so we have to do the disc, I have my acquisitions interview them, and then if we still think they're potentially a good candidate, then we'll usually have them come in for like 4 hours, and they'll spend the first couple hours listening to calls, and then we'll have them make some calls, and then get them on the phone with some of our colder leads, and just see. We're not looking for them to close the deal, but we're looking like, can they keep the seller on the phone? Can they follow the script and
Mhm.
keep the seller on the phone? Can they get into a conversation with the seller? Because it doesn't take, you don't need to know real estate to get on the phone with the seller and just talk about their dog, right? So if they can get on the phone
Mm.
with the seller and build that rapport and talk about, just get into a conversation with the seller and hold them on the phone, then that's it. We know that we can teach them the real estate. We know that we can teach them, the closing part.
Yeah. What are you specifically looking for in the sit down interview, like that second step?
Um, we're looking for, we if they're too aggressive, we don't want them. If they're too
Mm.
aggressive, we're looking for someone who's well spoken, like they're just easy to listen to and they're confident, but also just easy to you. It shouldn't be any friction in the conversation. Like it just be very easy to talk to them because that's how it's going to be when they're talking to your sellers. And if they're nervous to talk to you in the interview, they're going to be, then they're definitely going to be nervous talking to the sellers on the phone when there's pressure. So you need to, you're looking for someone that can connect with people. That's the number one thing. Can they connect and influence people? They have to be able to build that trust. Can they build rapport with people? Can they make a connection? And then can they influence them into making a decision?
Right.
That's what you're looking for. I mean, it's kind of vague, but that's exactly what you're looking for.
Sure. I gotcha. And then what are your
Does that
metrics
make
for
sense?
someone
Was that
like
a good description or not really?
it makes sense. It's just like, I was wondering if you kind of have like a scorecard you go through, or you've kind of just done it so many times that it's kind of like gut feel almost on those points you
Well, the
mentioned.
disc assessment is a scorecard. The disc
Sure.
assessment is a scorecard. The disc assessment
Yeah.
is a scorecard, but you just get that feeling. You just get that feeling. I mean, it's kind of like you just know, like, is this a good fit
Yeah.
or it's not a good fit? Like, I don't need a super genius. I need someone that's good on the phone that can talk and is coachable and motivated. I mean, it's not like I'm offering 200K, so I'm not looking for like a rock star. I'm looking for someone who's moldable and we know has potential to become great.
Yeah.
And if they have the right personality, we can teach them the rest. If they don't have the right personality, it's not going to work. I can't change their personality, but I can teach them the real estate. So I'm looking for the right personality. They have to sound good. They have a nice voice. It's great. A nice phone voice, good vocabulary, that kind of thing. The things that I don't want to teach them. And then
Mm.
the rest I can teach them. If they have
Yeah.
experience working for a wholesaler, that's a bonus usually. Although sometimes wholesalers will hire the average acquisition agents is not very good. So it just depends. Like if it's like even it's not necessary. Just because they have wholesale experience doesn't necessarily mean they're good.
Sure. Yeah. And then, like, what are your expectations of them in the first few weeks of them being hired?
They should um lock up their first contract in the first 10 days, 10 business days, so 2 weeks.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have a contract in the first 10 days, that's not good. That's not good. I would say 10 days first contract. We're looking for 2 hours talk time, 40, 50 outbound calls a day. Um, are they showing up on time? Are they, if as soon as you get someone who's like taking long lunch breaks, like, they're not motivated. Like if someone's taking
yeah.
like, a 1 hour lunch break, like, they're not motivated. So that,
Yeah.
those are the big things. I
Yeah.
mean, but yeah, I mean, the truth is we actually I haven't had to hire that many acquisition agents in the past few years just because I'm retained the same ones. I have the same ones. Like I have great acquisition agents. So I mean, any acquisition agent that I've hired that lasts more than a week or 2 weeks, they end up staying on my team for a year. Because as they see,
Yeah.
they're like, wow, like the other people, these guys are making money. There's tons of warm leads. They love working. They love warm leads. Like most other companies you're going to go to, they're going to have to be, dealing with cold call leads and all these bullshit leads, or they go through 50 leads to get a deal. And my company, they're getting like warm inbound, 3, 4, 5 inbound warm leads a day. So it's like,
Mm,
they love that. They fucking love that.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot less sifting and more actually
It's a lot less
selling.
work. I mean, they just got to worry about
Yeah.
closing the deal. I mean, like, it's pretty sweet job. I mean, you just sit there, they come in, they get their leads, they talk on the phone for a couple hours, they get some contracts, and my team handles the rest, and they can go home and make 6 figures or more. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. And then you said you have three dispositions people. So are you guys doing I know there's two schools of thought in the Novation. Some people hire a local agent, the other people do flat fee and they kind of manage it in-house. Are you guys the manage it in-house model then, or?
More so than, yeah, we usually hire flat fee. I mean, we've done local, although we do local either when I don't like the deal, so it's like a marginal deal, and I don't want to pay for the flat fee, so I'd rather just list it with local agent because I don't have to risk paying that 150.
It must be a tight
Or
deal to not risk $150.
well, I mean, we get a lot of contracts, so I mean, yeah, like we'll get deals where it's like in the middle of West Virginia, and it's like,
Yeah.
there's only like a 30% chance that we sell this thing, so I don't want to pay 150 for nothing. So I just, hire a local agent. If it's a low priced house, the house is like 40, 50 grand and the commission's only like $1,000. I mean, it's worth it. So,
Yeah.
or if it's like a big spread then and it's owner occupied, then sometimes we'll hire agent. But honestly, like I have enough overhead. Like I've got enough overhead. I got to pay commissions to all my team. I got to pay to my agents. Like I don't want to pay another 3%. Or two and a
Yeah.
half. So I'd rather just do the flat fee.
Right. Okay, so you just do it from a cost perspective, not necessarily like just because you feel like it's better. Is it just like a cost
Well, I mean,
thing?
I think that I have 3 dispo agents, so I think that they're gonna care about closing the deal just as much as like a local agent is. So I would rather, I almost trust my team to take the calls more than like a local agent would.
Hmm. Sure.
Like
And you
I
can
don't,
track
I
it all
don't.
coming CRM and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't think that a local agent necessarily adds 2.5% of value.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that two and a half, I mean,
And then,
if it's a $400,000 house, that's $10,000. It's a lot of money.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What were
And
we saying?
then, Yeah, like I guess like I mean you've made shifts in the business over the years. I mean you started off wholesale on the MLS, then you kind of started off going, direct to seller, outbound marketing, nationwide, novations. Like what do you what do you see for yourself in the next like 12 to 24 months?
Um, for me, you know, I'm in the next 12, 24 months. I mean, I'm going to have an IT person in here. My back end is going to be airtight. We're going to know all our KPIs because like I'm not KPIs and stuff. I'm not so tight on that. I'm not so organized on like
Mm,
my like numbers. I'm trying to get more organized on that. And I'm going to bring, you know, my PPC is going to be in house. My PPC is going to be in house. Right now we
mm,
outsource it, but my PPC is going to be in house. And I'm going to promote my lead acquisition agent to CEO of my company. So he's going to be running the day to day, kind of what I do now. And I'm just going to be looking at the business from the very top. Like I'm not even going to know the addresses or the areas of the properties. And we're going to scale. And then if Donald Trump wins the election, we're gonna go to 10 million plus without a fucking doubt, without a doubt. I mean, at this point, because I already know that if Donald Trump wins the election, the market's gonna be red hot again.
hmm
Like going back into that red hot market the way it was a couple of years ago. Using novations, using sub two, using wholetailing, using wholesaling, using investor lift, all these strategies that I've learned. I know that if I can do 3 million plus, with 4 acquisition agents in a shit market, if I get a hot market again, we're gonna go to 10 million without a doubt.
Yeah. And then you'll kind of go back to integrating some more of those strategies that we were doing before as opposed to being mostly innovation.
No, I'll still be mostly innovation, but the difference is
Okay.
that the properties will sell. They'll sell in two
Yeah.
days, as
Right.
opposed to sitting on the market for 45 days. So it'll
Right.
be way easier. And then we're going to have hedge funds come back into the market. So then we're going to be able to sell properties to hedge funds. And the hedge funds, they buy off the MLS usually. They actually prefer to buy,
Mhm.
they pay a lot of the hedge funds, they prefer to pay more on the MLS. So we're going to novate our properties, sell them to hedge funds for all cash, close in 30 days. Like my cash conversion cycle is going to get cut in half. Because right now, if I put $1 into marketing, I don't get it back for 90 days or more.
Sure.
If I
Yeah.
put if I put $1 into marketing in that market, I get it back in 30 days, 45 days, or whatever. It's way quicker.
Yeah.
So that allows me to grow my company way more. Because my cash conversion cycle gets cut in half. I mean, we'll
Yeah.
do more wholesaling for sure in a hot market, but wholesaling is it's not the best. I mean, you're leaving a lot of equity on the table for the investor, usually. I don't want to leave
Mm.
equity on the table for the investor. I want the fucking equity. So, I mean,
Sure.
I'm the one that paid for
Yeah.
the lead. So, I mean, I'll take the deal down. I'll flip it. I'll buy it with a hard money loan. I'll wholesale it and I'll list it on the market after I close. Like anything where I got a big spread, I'm closing on it. Like I close on a lot of houses. Right now, I have like 9 houses that I'm
Mm.
trying to sell in the market. So, and they're all over the country. I've got houses in North Carolina, houses I just sold one in Arizona. I had one in Vegas. I had one in California. I buy and sell houses, like actually buy and sell houses all over the country. So anything that makes sense, we're taking it down. If we're not usually if it's a really good deal, we don't usually novate it just because I don't want to risk anything going wrong. I'd rather just take it down.
Yeah. 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 That's a
So
lesson
yeah,
that,
that's
that I learned in the hot market. You close as fast
yeah,
as you humanly possible, like before
yeah. You
someone else
don't
comes along. Yeah.
exactly, and people will come. They always do. So
Yeah.
you got to just take it down. So yeah, I leverage hard money and I buy it myself and I turn around and sell it. I also buy a lot of properties with my IRA. I have a self-managed IRA. So I flip
Mm.
properties with that. And then it's like tax free, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I just
Yeah.
goes back in my IRA. So I don't gotta pay those huge taxes. And then I
Yeah.
just pay the commission to my acquisition agent from my IRA. It's amazing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're getting kind of close to the end here, but there's always two questions I always ask at the end of the show. One is for kind of the newer people. So if you could go back in time, give yourself one piece of advice when you were looking for that first deal, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I was looking at that first deal. I mean, that's like a long time ago. I guess, I guess, I don't have so many regrets about what I did on my first deal. I think it's like when I was getting my company off the ground. Like looking back 7 years in the business, 5 years as running this as with people under me. Like I would be more in the beginning. I didn't buy enough properties. That's definitely something. Like
Mm,
I made the mistake where I didn't buy enough properties. I passed off deals to other people that I should have just closed on it myself. That's
mm,
definitely big. Like if I go back in time, I probably would have made another $1 million by just buying deals that I sold to other people.
hmm
So that's one big one, and then another one is you know you know go like I would have been more aggressive with my hiring and like investing into my employees and going for the best possible employees like earlier. Like I would have
mm,
when I first started hiring my first transaction coordinator, like I was trying to get somewhere like 40 grand, 30 grand. And I was like, looking back, like if I had just gone and just gotten someone that was good for like 80, like in the beginning, like that would have saved me so much time and so many lost deals. It would have been 100% worth it. So going back, high, make that higher. Don't, if you're doing deals and if you've done $1 million on wholesaling and you want to grow your company, you got to be willing to invest in the people on your team, because you can't do much without like legitimate people on your team.
yeah, for sure. Cool. That's a great piece of advice, actually. And the other question I always ask is, what is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation you've ever experienced in a real estate deal?
Oh my god. In a real estate deal.
Mhm,
I mean, there's a lot of them that come to mind, but about a year and a half ago, there was a property in North Carolina that I was intending on buying it subject to the existing mortgage.
mhm,
And what happened is the seller, um, we found out we couldn't take it sub two because the loan was already like it was too late. So we had to close on it, and the property was going to auction the next day, like literally the next
mhm,
day. Um, I sprinted to the bank with about 2 hours before it closed, and I wired $295,000 to pay off the seller's mortgage so that the property wouldn't get foreclosed on. And then I closed on it the next day or a couple days later. I gave the seller 5 grand. First of all, I was retarded what I did, because the seller could have, if he didn't sell to me, I would have been out 300 grand. So that
Oh,
was
you just
retarded.
paid it without it even being in your name yet. Okay. Wow.
We just had a fucking an addendum that he was going to reduce the price to 5 grand and we were going to pay off the mortgage, and which was completely insane. I mean, it was big. I got very lucky because if he had turned around and not sold it to me, I literally would have been sitting there with 300 grand down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I paid off 300 grand, and then I bought the house, a couple days later from the seller for $5,000, and then yeah, I mean, that was pretty crazy, I would say.
Yeah.
And my team was, it was fun, but I mean, looking back, it was just dumb. I still own that house today, and it's a disaster. Like I haven't been able to sell it, mainly because it's in the middle of nowhere. But I'm still gonna make a profit. Like I had offers on it, I just didn't want to take them yet.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless, that was pretty crazy. Another one was when, there was a deal in Tampa. Um, we this was like a couple years ago, like 3, 4 years ago. It was one of the largest deals of my career. We made about almost 200,000 on it. We bought the house from the seller. This guy was just emotional. I mean, it was it was a live transfer cold call. The guy inherited the property, had no idea what it was worth, and we got it for 200K. It was in South Tampa, and he ended up back. He was like, "Oh," he calls, "Oh, you guys aren't giving me a fair price," and I was like, "Well, you signed a contract," and he was like, "Yeah, but we'll see about that." I'm like, "Well, if you don't sell the house, I'm gonna sue you. I'm not gonna just let it go." And he was like, he's like, "Oh, we'll see about that." And I sued him. The guy called us crying. Like, "Don't sue." He's like, "I don't want to go to jail. Like, please don't just take the house." He thought he was gonna go to jail. And so yeah, I mean, that was pretty crazy. Ended up buying the house for 200 and selling it like about 30 days later for 400. 3811 West Visconia Street, Tampa, Florida. I'll never forget that deal. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one. So I mean, those might not have been. I don't know if those were, because you talk about emotional stuff. Like I'm not really that emotional. Like none of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's more for me. It's more like it's like the thrill. It's like a thrill, like that fucking thrill, like making that huge deal happen like so quick. Like it's so exciting for me. It's so exciting. Like I don't get excited now unless we're making like I would say like 80,000. Like
Yeah.
that's like what like $20,000 deals, like whatever. Do them all the time. 30,000, whatever. Like I get excited if we're making like 70, 80 grand. Like that gets exciting for me at that point. Like that's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is a big deal. And when I
Yeah.
first got started, when you get through you 30,000, it's like shit. But now it's like
Yeah.
80,000. It's like, yeah, 80 grand. We're making money.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if
Yeah.
people want to reach out to you after the show or look at some of the content you
Mhm.
post, like how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean my Instagram's right there, America's Top Wholesaler. It was great getting with you, Mike. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time and you having me on your show. Yeah, I'm pretty responsive on there, and if they wanna, follow me on Instagram or send me a DM, they're more than welcome to. Although, you know, yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, I don't think we're pretty much done. I know, obviously, I kind of wanted to know more about your business, but I guess it's not really the right time for that.
I mean, you can ask me if you want.
Sure. So, tell me
Freeze
about
time
your
for a
business.
minute,
I
but
mean,
like,
like,
why not? Yeah.
well, what are
W-
you? I mean, what do you do? Like, tell me about what you got going on.
Yeah, so we're Jacksonville focus, so Northeast Florida, Duval, St. Johns, Clay, and Nassau County, pretty much only. Um, we right now probably wholesale about 50% and probably flip about 50%. I mean, we keep a rental here and there. It's just a bit tough right now with the I'd like to keep more, but with the rates, the numbers don't pencil so well. Um,
Hmm.
and the reason I was asking you actually a lot of the questions about hiring acquisitions people is we have been running the business where I've been the closer, everyone's been working remotely, and we actually just today signed a lease for an office, and we're going to be hiring 2 acquisitions people this quarter. So the goal is to
Congrats. I mean, yeah,
really
that's
blow
how
it
long
up.
have you been doing this?
Um, on like the off-market wholesale side, probably just coming up on 3 years, probably like 2 years and 9 months, about. Yeah,
Okay, so you're pretty new in it. I mean, that's not that long.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
good. That's good. I mean, I think that you're making the right move to hire in house, and because also when you get that first office, and you get in
Hmm.
that, and you get up in the morning, and you go to you drive to work, like it's different. I mean, it's like I'll never like it's just different. I mean, you're going to fucking your office, like you're going to work, like you're no longer working from your house. Like it's a different level of like intensity. It's a different level of like you signed that lease, like you've committed to making something happen, right? So
Yeah.
when you go in there and then you hire other people, like it changes your whole business. I mean, it's now you're not only just running this out of your house, like it's another level of confidence it takes to go and do that. So I commend you for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would say higher acquisitions first, and then once you're doing like some volume, like I would say the second hire usually for me is no, sorry, not dispo, transaction coordinator. I like to hire transaction coordinator first.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, you're probably going to want to get someone for like 60 to 70. You probably get someone decent for
Yeah.
transaction coordinator, and then yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, um, but yeah, I mean, wholesaling. So you're not doing novations yet.
We've done two just because it like kind of like just fell into our lap type deal.
So once you can
But
like
no, we're
get
not
that,
competitive. Yeah.
once you get that like transition in your mind, like okay, like you know, we can do novations like with success. Like once you get some success, and then once you also get that kind of transition, like okay, like we don't have to only do deals in our backyard. That like opens up your whole business. Like the idea
Yeah.
that like you have to do deals like in your backyard, it's a very limiting belief. And like it's very
Mm,
hard to no one that I've seen in this business has gone like really big without like going like beyond their backyard. Doesn't exist.
yeah. Yeah. So you're a
So
big fan of, obviously, because you built it that way, but building out the
mm,
office as like a phone sales team versus an in-home appointment team, obviously, because
you
you want
have to
make
be
sure.
yeah, because it's not efficient. It's not efficient to like go out there every time. I mean, it takes so much time. Like you don't need like obviously like when you go on an appointment, you have a higher chance of closing, but you don't
Yeah.
need it's too much time. It's too much time. Like our
Yeah.
acquisition agents, they get like two to four contracts a week. Like there's no way
A
that your
week.
acquisition agents,
Okay.
yeah, a week. So like there's no way
Yeah.
like your acquisition agents can get like two to four contracts a week,
Yeah.
like going to fucking appointments. It's no, it's prehistoric. You got it. Like
Yeah.
if they build good rapport, like you get it over the phone. You got to get over the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because like people don't even understand like what a good acquisition agent is. Like they don't have any
Mm,
idea. Like they think their team is good, and then they like when I had my because I know some of the biggest players in the industry. I've been this for a while. I have them. I have my own mastermind where we get on weekly calls. I have like some pretty big players in there. Everyone in there doing like seven figures. Multiple seven figures, and like my guys, they like they've seen my acquisition agents and they're like, whoa, like that guy's like really good. Like like it's crazy. Like they like my acquisition agent could talk like you could talk anyone doing anything. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. So when you get like a good salesperson, like one good salesperson is worth more than like five shitty ones or five average ones.
sure.
Like, and
Yeah.
you won't know that you've gotten that person until you like see them. It's like they'll do things that are just like beyond what you thought was possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It
Yeah.
no, it does make sense. Yeah.
Anything else you want to
Cool.
go over today?
No, I appreciate you being on the show, man. This is great. And yeah, thanks for being on.